Presenter today is Derek Fuzzell. Derek is the Vice President, Finance at Northwest Federal Credit Union in Herndon, Virginia. Derek's project title is Fair Framework. His project is about developing and facilitating a series of financial management courses aimed to enrich understanding for all members of management and future leaders in the credit union industry. Let's hear it for Derek.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to share with you a little bit about my project, the FAIR Framework Series. Now, FAIR is an acronym that stands for Finance, Accounting, Risk, and Economics, but it's really a bigger part of an overall strategy around leadership succession planning. And that's really where we're going to start today. So I have a question for all of you. How many of you have thought about your leadership succession planning? I see hands across the room. But have you done it all the way down to your frontline manager level? Are you thinking at that level that the next manager, whoever they are, the impact that they have and what is it that they need to understand? What is the impact that they're going to have on your strategy and your finances as an organization? And that's really what the FAIR framework is about. So when we started developing the leadership succession pipeline at Northwest, we really went back to basics. We went back to the Harvard Business Review 2003 article by Conger and Fulmer, which really said you had to focus on development. Why development? You know, it seems like it's a piece of it, but according to Conger and Fulmer, they say that it's everything. That the rest of this, all of the other points here, are only worthwhile to focus on if you have that focus on development. So we talked about what are the key items that we needed to focus on. Leadership, people management, financial management, which is what the FAIR Framework Series is about, project and operational management, understanding what you do and how you do it, and when you change processes, how you change. Also strategic and competitive analysis, how we operate, how we differentiate ourselves. And then lastly, cross-functional understanding. Understanding how you as an organization, when you make a decision in one area, how it affects another area entirely. From here, you know, we said, what can the FAIR framework do? What all can it accomplish? And we discovered that we could hit on cross-functional understanding and strategic and competitive analysis by focusing first on financial management. And that was a huge component of what we tried to do here. But there are other benefits when we look at leadership succession planning beyond just focusing on development. We get other benefits out of this, out of our staff. They start to learn, they start to understand. From there, they start to become engaged because they feel involved. They're aware of what's going on around them, and they decide to enact and make change themselves. And that helps us to retain talent in the long run, which is the ultimate goal of leadership succession planning. As they retain talent, they feel valued, and they see a future with the credit union for themselves. But back to the FAIR framework. So we talk about finance, accounting, risk, and economics. In each of these course series, we talk a little bit about the elements that build to our strategy, and that's really why that strategy is in the core of this. In the finance course, we talk about investment strategies, we talk about time value of money concepts, so that people understand when we make a decision, whatever that decision is, these are the financial thoughts that need to go into that. On the accounting side of things, we talk about financial accounting, definitely, metrics, you know, loan-to-share ratio, capital ratio, so forth. But we also talk about managerial accounting and how we should be looking at things when we're making decisions about what is a sunk cost and what is avoidable in the future. In risk, we talk about interest rate risk, we talk about concentration risk, asset liability management, balance sheet strategies that flow out of that. These are all big, relevant components of what we as an organization have to think about. And in economics, we look at the industry as a whole, not just the credit union subsection of the industry or the bank subsection, but also as the financial interrupters who we are going to have to deal with in the next 5 to 10 years. And again, all of this builds to strategy, where we talk about the key concepts of Porter's 5 forces and Porter's generic strategies, and how we as a credit union decide to operate. So let's talk about where we came from, how we got here today. In 2015, when I joined Northwest Federal, we determined that this was actually a need. However, it was not a top priority at that time period. Earlier this year, thanks to change in executive management, it became a top priority. We started to have discussions around what are our plans for the future and how do we build a better credit union. We developed the core series, the Fair Framework series, over the many months, June and July mostly. And then we started teaching in August and September to our vice presidents and assistant vice presidents across the organization. At the end of September, we actually had a graduation ceremony to recognize those people who had accomplished this great feat. And I'm so thankful for those people because they had to put up with me for a grand total of 8 hours talking about numbers. And that can be a stretch for a lot of people. But where are we going? What's the future? Well, at Northwest, we're going to be teaching this course over the next 8 months. We do have it lined up for all the rest of our management team and rising stars to go through this course. And they're also going to offer it on a quarterly basis after that, so that new managers and other rising stars get the opportunity to learn. We are working on launching the Fair Framework series with a couple of other credit unions in the DC area, as well as one credit union in Ireland, in the Republic of Ireland. I'm also working with a consultant out of Trinidad and Tobago to develop a board-specific Fair Framework series. I'm sure many of you have encountered those rare moments where board members don't fully understand what's going on finances, and that's really what this course is about for them. And then we're also working to develop a self-study course and a WebEx version, a live WebEx version, for those employees who are not located at our central facility. And lastly, we're looking at what we can do in the long run, whether that's creating a leadership institute where we bring people in to train them on these topics so they can go back and train, and train others, or if it's actually to put it inside of a CUSO that would actually go out and do the training itself. But that's really where we've come from today. But I'm going to close with just this one little anecdote for you. A friend of mine asked me why I called it the FAIR framework and not the FEAR framework, F-E-A-R. And I told him, I said, finance, accounting, risk, and economics are not topics that you should fear, but there is a price to pay if you don't understand what's going on with it. If you're not careful, you will pay a big price in the long run. Thank you. Thank you, Tim.
Great job, Derek. Let's start with David.
I think it's an interesting concept, no doubt. But tell me, what would it cost to put somebody through the program? Direct cost and the opportunity cost and other ways they can spend their time.
Absolutely. So the direct cost of the program is actually very, very minimal. So the slides itself, the presentation's already put together, and we'd be willing to share that with other credit unions. So the actual direct costs are very limited. We are not, at this point, with the credit unions we are working with, we're not charging them a fee for the training personnel. I'm actually taking time off to deal with a couple of those. But as far as the opportunity cost, it's the time of your staff. So that is 8 hours. That's one full business day that your staff is away. But the real opportunity cost here is, can you afford not to have your staff sit through this and understand how budgeting and forecasting really impact their lives?
Great. And a question from Dee Dee.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Appreciate you sharing a lot here. And I look at you and I go, a lot of passion, a lot of intellect, and just curious, how far do you want to go with this project before maybe pass it off? And then what's next for you?
Sure.
Like, when are you going to get tired enough to pass it off? Like, all that kind of
Understood. So I am actually working with my team right now. I oversee both the finance and FP&A, financial planning and analysis functions. And I am working with them to actually train one of my staff to take over teaching the course itself. So we are preparing for that. There's a leadership succession pipeline even on the course. So we are developing that at the moment. What's for me in the long run, I see myself stepping into a CFO and then eventually a CEO role within the credit union industry. I love the credit union movement itself. And I really think that courses like this will help to engage people who are not normally familiar with financial management. Welcome.
And we've got time for a question from Dan.
Sure. You talked about there are several components of leadership development, and the FAIR framework is addressing one of those.
Right.
Have you given thought to, based on the success of this, looking into those other aspects of leadership development? And if I could just tack on a second question to that is, have you seen people who have gone through the FAIR framework may just consider other things? I mean, have you seen its effects on their decision making?
Absolutely. So I will address with the first question there about other courses. And yes, we are looking into building operational and project management courses so that people actually understand the various pieces of the operation, how we operate, truly not just from a financial perspective, but how things impact each other. This is going to help with the cross-functional understanding component of it. Our credit union already offers a leadership course that is focused on human capital management. And so we're taking the success of that course already and building from there. To the other point is, how, if you could restate that for me really quickly. Have we seen the effects of it? Yes. In the budgeting process this year so far, it's actually been quite phenomenal. I literally went from a course talking about sunk cost, implicit cost and so forth, and right into a budgeting session where I had managers say, well, it's a sunk cost. I had never heard the term sunk cost from these managers before, and they said, well, we shouldn't be considering that. That's a sunk cost. We should only be considering the opportunity cost, the marginal cost here. So yes, I actually have seen quite a bit of success with it already.
Very nice work, Derek. Let's hear it for him.
Thank you, Tim.
You bet.